speaks of power because we are kings and our words matter.
We are not perfect. Yes, we may be very good, but when we act wrong and we do something wrong, what does that reveal? Not just, oh, we are a good person, but we acted wrong. No, somewhere in there is some problem. But God doesn't have any problems. It is in His nature to heal, and He will always heal.
Can you hear it? The thunder in the distance when we worship. The Lion of Judah roars. Strongholds crumble all around us in the presence of our Lord. There'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eyes. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout of El Shaddai, can you hear it? The thunder in the distance when we the Lion of Judah rose. Strongholds crumble all around us in the presence of our Lord. There'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eyes. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout, El Shaddai, there'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eye. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout, El Shaddai.
Exodus 15:26. I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians. I will put none of the diseases that I put on you that I put on the Egyptians. Now here we have a problematic sentence, right? He says, I won't put any of the diseases that I put on the Egyptians. He says it as though he put it on the Egyptians. Now there are a few verses like this in the Bible, right? And the way we are to understand these verses, the language is pretty harsh. It speaks as though God is the one who put the diseases on the Egyptians. And in fact, if you go and read the story of the 10 plagues and all that, you will find some diseases in there. And you will find also that it says God, sent the plagues. And so there are verses like this. But the way we are supposed to understand it is to understand it in light of the big picture. You remember the big picture from last week. There was no sickness in the beginning, no sickness in the end. That demonstrates that healing is not a work of, sickness is not a work of God. It is not a part of the perfect will of God. But how do you, with that in mind, you have to understand verses like these. And so when you look at it in light of the big picture, the way I believe you are supposed to understand it is, God doesn't send the sickness, but when God pronounces judgment, right, that's different from sending sickness. When God pronounces judgment, and He is a judge, and He has to judge. He cannot look at all the wrong things that are going on and sin and be without judging. No, He's a holy God, and He's also a righteous God, and He's a righteous judge. When God judges, that brings the wrath of God. And when God's wrath is there, it opens the door to the work of the devil. It opens the door to the consequences of sin to increase in wherever, on Egypt or wherever. See, when God pronounces judgment, when does God pronounce judgment? When there is great deal of sin and rebellion. Okay? When there is great deal of sin and rebellion. So that's when judgment is pronounced. When judgment is pronounced, God's wrath is revealed. When his wrath is revealed, the devil gets in and has a field day. And the consequences of sin start coming. You see, that's what happened with Egypt. God himself says in Exodus 12:12 that I will execute judgment. You see, Exodus 12:12, I will pass through the land of Egypt. I'll strike all the firstborn, both man and beast, all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments. He's saying not only on Egypt, but the gods of Egypt, you know. They are believing and worshiping the wrong gods. I will execute judgment on those wrong gods. And when the judgment is executed, the wrath comes, and the wrath gives room to the devil and the consequences of sin. This is the way we are supposed to understand it. But some people will say, you know, well, how can this God who judges, and because of the judgment these things are coming, you know, judgment opens the door to this. Well, how can this God be a good God? Well, you don't look at a judge you don't look at the judgment and decide whether the person is good or bad, right? Do you look at a high court judge who comes home after giving the death penalty to somebody, and do you say about the high court judge, this guy is a very bad guy? What kind of a guy is he? He gave the death penalty. Do you say that? No. What do you think? You think, what kind of a guy would that guy have been to deserve the death penalty? A judge is supposed to give punishment where punishment is deserved, you see. And so why did Egypt, in one sense, you know, they got punished? Because their sin was great. For 400 years, they treated the Israelites cruelly. They kept them as slaves, beat them, tortured them, you see. And not only that, they were living in sin and rebellion, worshipping false gods, refusing to give the true God his glory and his due. And so great was their sin. Sometimes we can't understand it because we're used to sin. But for God, the sin is too great. It has to be judged. And the devil comes in and, you know, does all kinds of things, you see. But what I'm saying is, you cannot look at the judgment and base whether he is good or bad. No. You have to look at other things, you see. But anyway, let's go back to our verse, 15:26. What does the verse say? I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egypt. What is he saying? What is the point? I won't put it on you. Everybody say he won't. The point is, whether you understand or not how God is judging and all this, that's not the point. The point is, he won't put it on you. God is saying, I won't put it on you. I won't put it. That's the point. Well, you may say, well, brother, if that's the point, then why bring in this sentence about what I put on the Egyptians, I won't? Is there any necessity for you to bring this in today's message? Is there any necessity for God to bring this in? You know, I brought it in because God brings it in here in this verse, okay? I don't want to just skip that and just keep going as though I didn't even see it, you see. Why does God bring in that one problematic sentence and say, what I put on the Egyptians, I won't put on you, you know? I'll tell you why. Because these Israelites were having it in their mind. They were having what in their mind? They had just come after seeing months of plagues in Egypt. You remember that, right? 10 plagues, very destructive plagues, some of them bringing diseases to Egyptians, right? And the 10th plague killed a person in every Egyptian home, the firstborn. They had seen that, right? See, from one angle, the Israelites saw the power of God to save them, right? To deliver them. But from another angle, they also saw the power of God to destroy the enemy, you see. A lot of people in Egypt died, you see. And not only that, they came to the Red Sea. There, they saw the power of God to split the water. They walked through and they were saved. But not only that, they saw the power of God which also drowned Egypt. Pharaoh and his army they saw that. And then what happened? 3 days without water. After seeing all this, 3 days without water, they must have started to think, maybe what God did to the Egyptians may happen to me. Maybe. What if it happens like that? They must have started to think. It must have crossed their mind. Because they came from that kind of, you remember, that's how people, sometimes when you're in the midst of something and it's very difficult and it looks like nothing is working out, everything is going against you, the thought crosses your mind, maybe this is it, right? Maybe it's over, Maybe God doesn't intend to bring me out of this. And God saw that these people were thinking like that, you see. And he's saying, now listen, first stop thinking like that. What happened in Egypt will not happen to you. Everybody say it won't happen to me. It won't happen to you. That's what God is saying. I know you're thinking like this. Throw that kind of thinking out because it won't happen to you. I'm just imagining, the Israelites might have been thinking, well, God, we're still not 100% sure. So then God says, well, you're not 100% sure. Let me give you one final reason which should settle all your doubts. What is the reason? What is the proof that I won't put those diseases on you, that it will not happen to you, diseases will not come to you, sickness will not come to you from me? What is the proof? I'll give you one proof. What is that? For I am the Lord, your... What is saying? You want proof? You want more proof that I won't do to you? My name itself is healer. Now maybe that didn't get in today's world, right? Today's world, we live in a world where people's names and them don't go together. You noticed? Right? Some people looked at me and said, what, it's just for fun, they'll say, what, you're named Jeevan, there's no life in you, Named life, but there's no life in you, So let me say some other names also. That's why I first made fun of myself, so that you can't blame me when I pick some other names. I have to pick some names to make the point, okay? Like, for example, have you seen somebody named Samson, but they may not be like Samson. Some Samsons may be, puny and, right? We live in a world where the name doesn't connect with the person. So maybe this doesn't, chicken puff, there's hardly any chicken in it. It's just for name's sake, you know what I mean? So when God says, listen, my name itself is healer, maybe we are not shocked. But to the Israelites, it would have been like a, because Jacob was named what? A supplanter. His name, meaning of his name was supplanter. He cheated Esau twice. He was named like a cheater, literally, almost. So for the Israelites, the name and the person connects very truly. So when God said, listen, you want more proof that I won't do to you, there won't be sickness that comes from me upon you, here's the highest proof. My name itself is healer. That means if my name is healer, I will only heal you, man. I won't make you sick. I will heal you. I won't make you sick. See, he's saying, just because it happened there, don't think it'll happen to you. He's saying, who are you? You are my chosen people. I've delivered you out of Egypt. I just delivered you after sacrificing that Passover lamb, right? That Passover lamb. What was that Passover lamb? It's a sign, shadow of my son dying for you, giving his very life and his blood for you. After giving my own son for your salvation, will I then put sickness on you? No, I won't do what I did to the Egyptians to you. It will not happen. Don't look at that and say it may happen too. See why I say this is very important, you see. Don't look at some of the verses in the Bible, the problematic verses, and say, what if this is happening? No, it won't. Everybody say it won't. Why? His name itself is healer. That means he'll heal. Not only that, why did he think about it? See, he could have simply said, listen, I won't do it to you, I will heal you, right? He could have simply said, I will heal you. But he didn't say it like that. He put it in the form of a name. For I am the Lord, your healer. Why did he put it in the form of a name? Because he really wants to emphasize the point, you see. When he's putting it in the form of a name, what is he saying? He's saying, listen, I will surely heal. Not only that, healing is something I consider very important. Healing is something I consider very important. It's one of my main activities and roles. It's not just some trivial activity. Healing is not just like one of God's many activities. God has many activities and one of them is healing. No, it is one of his very important activities. Think about it. You all know about Einstein, right? Genius. Some people even say, when they talk about Einstein, they say Einstein the genius. We put that to his name, right? We attach it to his name. Why? Something very important about him is his intellectual, genius, right? But Einstein had some other hobbies and interests as well. He was very interested in plumbing, they say. Very interested in, he was, he showed some interest in plumbing. But have you ever heard anybody say Einstein the plumber? I'm sure he did a little bit of plumbing here and there. Why? Because that's not something important to him. That's not the way we remember him. That's not what he did mainly, you see. His main activity was just being a genius and showing off his genius, God's main activity is healing. It's his important activity. It's main, important. And that means he's doing it all the time. He's doing it always. Everybody say always. Sometimes we say important. Have you noticed? We'll say, oh, this is very important, but we'll hardly do it. Have you noticed? I'll give you an example. Prayer. Very important. Every Christian in the world will say it's very prayers. One of the important. But do we do it all the time? We hardly do it. When we do it, we're not doing it enough, you see. We say it's important, but we don't do it. It's not like that. Once again, when God says it's important to me, it's in my name, I will do it all the time. You go see, people like to just look at the plagues and the other problematic passages, but go see how many times he healed, how thousands upon thousands of people were healed in Exodus chapter 12 last week. And then in the journey, in the wilderness journey, we see in the bronze serpent was lifted up, more people were healed. There are other instances which we may go, or I don't know. David says, you have forgiven all my sins, who forgives all my sins and who heals all my... That means what? God was all the time healing David. That's why he's saying, he heals all my diseases. There are so many people getting healed in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus exemplifies this and he heals all the time. If you notice, Jesus, wherever he goes, he not only preaches but also heals. He heals everybody that comes to him. He doesn't refuse a single person. It's important to him. He's doing it always. He will do it to you, my friend. Everybody say, he'll do it to me. He's saying, listen, you want proof that I won't make you sick? How can I make you sick? I am in the business of healing. I'm going around making people well, healing them. That's why he put it in a name, you see. Another reason he put it in a name is because name signifies character or nature. See, healing is not just something that God does. It is something that he is. The Lord, your solution. I am your solution, God is saying, Healing, it's like love is not just what God shows. He is love, right? That is the kind of thing that comes out here. That's why he put it in a name to say, listen, I embody healing. I exemplify healing is part of my core nature. It is part of my intrinsic character and nature. Have you ever noticed? Doing something a lot is different from doing something a lot just because it's a part of your nature to do it, right? Some people help a lot just because for other reasons and motives. But some other people, have you noticed, they are helping because it is part of their very nature to help. Just in their nature, right? You notice some people are stingy also. Sometimes they're just stingy, for some reason. But some people are stingy because it's in their nature to be. Like Jacob cheated because it was in his nature to cheat. Our nature is not all that perfect, you see. Some people are generous because it's in their nature to be generous. God heals because it is in his nature to heal. Everything is like that, God does good because goodness is part of his very core nature. He judges. He's a God of justice because justice is part of his very core nature. He shows love because he is love. See, it is natural for God to heal. Natural. The easiest, most natural thing for God to do is to heal a person. Not to heal is a contradiction of his very nature, of who he is. And he will not contradict his own nature. He will reveal his nature, my friend. Sometimes we think people are acting again. Brother, he's a very good person, but he acted like this. No, the reason is there was some bad somewhere in there. And it came out. That's the truth, you see. We are not perfect. Yes, we may be very good, but when we act wrong and we do something wrong, what does that reveal? Not just, we are a good person, but we acted wrong. No, somewhere in there is some problem. But God doesn't have any problems. It is in His nature to heal, and He will always heal. It's the easiest thing for Him to do. God is saying, listen, you want proof that I won't do what happened to the Egyptians, what happened to you? I'll give you the proof. It is in my nature to heal. It is natural for me to see a sick person and heal them. It is totally unnatural, contradictory to give them sickness. For me, unnatural to just leave them sick itself. You notice Jesus, He goes to certain places and He can't help but heal. Have you noticed that? He's in the synagogue, people are against Him. If He heals, He'll get into trouble. They'll criticize Him, they'll condemn Him. Knowing all that, He can't look at a sick person and just leave him and go. He has to heal him. He has to heal him. He doesn't care what these people think. He has to heal him, see? God is like that. Not to heal is a contradiction of His nature. Then imagine bringing sickness. That is way, way out there, my friend. That won't happen. God is saying that won't happen. What happened in Egypt won't happen to you. Get it in your head. Another final thing, and I'll close with this. Why does He put it in a name? Why does He put it in a name? The name indicates that God wants to be known as a healing God. God wants to be known as a healing. When I look at somebody and say, my name is Jeevan, what am I saying? I'm saying, when you call me, you need to call me Jeevan. When others hear about me, they need to hear me as, I need to be known as Jeevan, right? That's the point of a name, right? God wants to be known as healer. He wants to be known like that. He wants that name to become famous, But unfortunately, many preachers have made Him famous as Yahweh, God, the one who, Jehovah, not Jehovah Rapha, but Jehovah, the one who makes you sick. Many preachers are doing that, Saying God hits you, beats you, punishes you. They're always preaching that. What happens? People start thinking about God as the punisher, the destroyer. Imagine reading this verse and say, I am the Lord, your destroyer. The one who brings sickness upon you. No, God doesn't want to be known like that. But preachers are doing that, see, because they find some problematic verses, and Christians are sometimes believing in that, and they are making that name famous. But God is saying, wait, my name is healer. Please make that famous. In the States, generally in Western countries, sometimes in college and all that, the student will tell the professor what he wants to be called. His name may be Jagadiswaran, okay? But he'll say, call me Jazz. I'm serious, I'm not even joking. And the professor may be a big shot. He's one of the experts in his field. But guess what? He will call him Jazz because he wants to be known as. God is saying, this is not even that difficult. I'm not asking you to call me Jazz. I'm saying call me healer. It's for your own good. Call me healer. Call me healer. I will heal you. That's what I'm doing. That's what I do always, all the time, everywhere. I'm a healer. I will heal you. See, God cares about the reputation of His name. He takes great interest in His own reputation. Many times in the Bible, you will see in Psalm 23, He leads me in the paths of righteousness. For what? Why does He lead me in the path of righteousness? For His name's sake. Not just for my sake, for His name's sake, for His reputation's sake. There are many other passages. One important passage is Isaiah 48, 9-11. I don't have the time to read it. You go home and read it, God says in many places, I will save you for my name's sake. I will deliver you for my name's sake. I will heal you for my name's sake. Jesus' fame as a healer spread throughout the whole region. People came to Him and He healed, and His fame spread further. Let us be in the business of spreading the fame of God as healer, my friend. Let Him heal you so that He can be known as healer.
Let's put our hands together. These are some awesome days that we live in. Days of Elijah, bearing the word of the Lord. These are the days of the servant Moses, righteousness being restored. these are days of great triumphs, famine and darkness and sword. Still a voice in the desert crying, preparing the way of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on clouds, shining like sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee. Now the Zion's hill, salvation comes. These are the days of Ezekiel, dry bones becoming his flesh. These are the days of his servant David, rebuilding the temple of prayer. These are the days of the harvest. The fields are as white in the world. We are the laborers in your vineyard, declaring the word of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's year of jubilee. Now of Zion's hill, salvation. Behold, behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's year of jubilee. Now of Zion's hill, salvation comes. There's no God like our God. See it. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee. Now of Zion's hill, salvation. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee. Out of Zion's hill, salvation.